Hello there, sword friends. I am going to share with you a really fun, awesome project, and probably what I might argue is the best Zatoichi sword that has been made. I could be wrong about that. Maybe there's a better one in your opinion or a better one that's been made, but I think this one may well be a contender for the highest end, fanciest damn Zatoichi blade that's ever been made, and that is done, or that claim is made rather, with very little research on my part and severe bias. Going into it, if you're not familiar with Zatoichi, Zatoichi is a blind swordsman, and I'm most familiar with him from films. And there's a host of different films with different actors over different periods that show this Japanese swordsman that carries a cane, a stick similar looking to this, though the appearance may change. Sometimes it appears to be made out of pine or magnolia. Sometimes it is dark, sometimes it's lacquered red, sometimes it has little adornments on it, but most of the time it follows this very similar pattern. Some sort of notch on the side that shows kind of where the blade edge is. In addition to that, it has some sort of makugi on it, though admittedly in some version it's hard to see. This one is made out of copper, and I don't think many of them have that. This kind of hourglass shape on the handle is very common in terms of that, the theme of Zatoichi having the walking stick with a handle on it. There's no guard or anything like that. This one has a seppa, a very small little spacer between to keep the habaki off the wood, and a kojiri, or a little end cap, and I believe this is an antique piece that I have right here. This is also made of a copper and rokushoed to match the little makugi piece, or the pin that holds the tang of the blade in. Now, I'm most familiar with Zatoichi from the films, and admittedly I've watched a few of them that I've rented from Netflix over time, and they're really, really cool, but it's really hard to tell the exact measurements of this, and very often you see modern reproductions made from 440 stainless steel. That's a type of steel that really isn't conducive to actual use of a sword. Very great for decoration, doesn't require a lot of maintenance, but it's really not great in terms of actual functionality for a sword. And you also see a few pieces made by Hanwei. Hanwei makes a folded version and a non-folded version, and when I see them, unfortunately I don't have one to compare, but they're quite long. They're almost a straight katana, and this is not a straight katana. This is an L6 blade made by Howard Clark. If you're not familiar with Howard Clark, he is an American swordsmith of some notoriety that has mostly produces an L6 bayonet steel, as well as 1086 steel, if I'm not mistaken. This is a straight blade. It's a small blade, wakizashi size, or ko-katana, depending on where you want to go, or maybe o-wakizashi. It's tough to say, but it's not quite a normal katana length, and it's made from his L6 steel. From my understanding, what he had to do, because when you make a sword, when you make a Japanese sword, very often smiths might forge the sword straight, and then in the process of hardening, it develops its shape. I believe Howard had to curve this sword with a reverse curve initially, so that it straightened out in the hardening. I could be a little off on that, but on any note, from my understanding, this was a bit of a pain in the butt for him to make, and I don't know that he's too interested in making straight blades out of L6 anymore with differential heat hardening, because it's very cumbersome to do. But in any regard, this is a modern tool steel, differentially hardened blade, currently unpolished, in a what effectively is a shirasai mount that looks like a sword cane. And frankly, it is so cool. I can't state how cool this is. I mean, every little detail on this is great. Now, I have not had it polished yet, but we have a little rain pattern in the habaki. All the copper pieces on here, all the metal other than the blade, is made out of a copper piece. So the habaki, the makugi, the kojiri are all a copper metal. Then we have a kind of a deep brown color. We have the two kind of characteristic marks that identify where the edge is. They point towards the edge in a downward motion. The kind of hourglass shaped handle, the stick shape. It's a shorter blade, which you see in the movies, but you don't really see represented. I'm a big, tall American dude, and this is a long blade, but certainly not quite a katana, a few inches off. It hasn't been polished yet, and I don't think I'm going to polish it, but it's in a Smith's polish from Howard Clark, which gives it a very rough, kind of aggressive look. In the movies, they're more polished, but the movies, I don't know that they're using an authentic blade or not. In terms of moving, it is a amazingly fun blade to move in your hand. It's tough to say how this should feel. It feels like a wakizashi. It feels like it has heft, but it is a small, very nimble little light blade. But it feels like a not quite rapier-esque, but it has point control, but it feels like it has heft despite its very small size. Most of what I have for you to share is really there. I will share some specifications in terms of the point of balance and all of that kind of thing down in the description below. What I can say, this is just an amazing iteration of a Zatoichi blade, but it's hard to say if it's really worth it or not. This is an L6 blade made by Howard Clark, which means if you go to his website, you can see what he charges for an L6 wakizashi with a habaki, and it's pretty fancy pantsy. And then I've had it mounted in kind of a Zatoichi way, and it's just so cool. It's a really fun project, and given the high-endness of this blade, given that the wakizashi itself is the blade without the wood or without it being a functional blade is probably around $3,000, a little bit under without the wood or without it actually being a functional piece. A polish would probably cost me another $1,000 or so. I'm not sure, maybe $1,500, maybe more. But this is a really fancy Zatoichi style blade. It probably, it's tough to say what something like this would retail for, because ultimately it retails for whatever somebody will pay, and I will likely sell this. But I'm going to probably end up selling this for around $3,500 unpolished. If I polish it, probably around $5,000. And that price point might make it the highest end wakizashi, but I think the highest end piece really comes from it being made by a notable American smith out of a what's commonly known as, well, I don't know about commonly known, but known as a really high-end, very resilient tool steel, and mounted up in a way by a craftsman that really knows what he's doing in a custom fashion. So this, I think, might just be one of the highest-end Zatoichi style swords that you will see. And I am very happy with it. It feels great in my hand. I hope you've enjoyed this little video. Let me know if you have any questions on it, and as always, cheers and thanks for watching. I'm saying it wrong, Makugi. I have the coolest Zatoichi sword to share with you. That's another interruption. People keep typing to me. It would be smarter if I did this on a different computer, but I don't. So, gonna mute the settings on Chrome. Volume mixer. Okie dokie.